So here I am in the middle of nowhere. Well, not exactly nowhere, somewhere in the jungle in Ampang here. I was enjoying Vivaldi, Antonio Vivaldi, Four Seasons, using this particular IEM, new IEM from DUNU, which is Titan S2 here. Just over 2 years after the release of the first DUNU Titan, which was very successful, I would say, and I even had the opportunity to review it exactly 2 years ago here in Headphone, as you can see here. It was pretty much a very good IEM, even at that point of time. So now, 2 years down the road, finally we have a direct successor, which is again Titan S2. And for the price of just $80, this thing is super impressive. Let's just start with the IEM itself. Let's just have a closer look what you're gonna get inside this box, okay? And just take a moment to savor the beauty that is Titan 2 S2. The construction of this IEM is entirely made of metal, so it is definitely kind of a bit on the heavier side, hefty. The build itself very solid, but ergonomically I would say that it is definitely comfortable. Despite appearing kind of a bit agey, I was able to use it for a prolonged period of time. No comfort issue at all there, no abrasiveness to my skin or my ears. And just have a look at this. Perhaps one of the key elements why you would want to have Titan S2 over many other IM at this price point. Just look at this beautiful cable here. Okay, I can just simply look at it for hours on end. Not only it is a beautifully made leads SPC cable, it is also a detachable unit. So inside the box, you're gonna find this detachable 4.4 mm balance, okay, together with 3.5 mm single-ended. 2.5 mm balance is not included because I think that is a dying standard, no longer applicable nowadays, okay. And just have a look at this. So very easy to wind and unwind, and like that. If you were to ask me, and if somebody were to tell me that this IEM gonna cost you $300, then I would believe you, because that's exactly how I feel about this, the whole construction of this IEM. Super premium, okay? And it does look to be quite robust as well. And wearing it, just let me show you. Okay, this is a single dynamic driver, by the way. Dual chamber dynamic driver. And it has this impedance rating of very decent at 16 ohm with sensitivity of 107 dB. So this is definitely an easy IM to drive. So wearing it is just pretty much very simple, like this, and you can see how flush it sits into my ear because it is relatively still small compared to many other IMs in the market. The seal is fairly okay, not the most silent, but definitely comfort is good, okay? And let's just talk about a bit more about the rest of the accessories included inside this carrying case here. Very nice carrying case. So if I were to open this up, hopefully I'm not going to spill everything. There's 4 different type of silicone tips which DUNU provide, including this popular tips which I forgot the name, but this is very popular. But for whatever reason it is, I have been able to use this tips here, which is the black with the red nozzle from DUNU, quite comfortably, and I really love the combination of these tips together with this S2. When we talk about sound and performance, there is no avoiding of comparing this Titan 2 against the predecessor, the original DUNU Titan, which I have reviewed 2 years ago, as you can see here in Headphone. And I did mention earlier that it was a good IEM, that DUNU Titan, with an exception of several cons, which I do feel that DUNU Titan was kind of a bit focused too much on being analytical, kind of a bit lean sounding, dry sounding, metallic sounding even. But there is an indication that it was already a very well-tuned IEM from DUNU, just perhaps requiring a bit more of refinement. So now the question is, does this new Titan 2 offer improvement over what was already started by DUNU Titan? And my short answer is yes. Definitely, one thing that you can expect from this Titan 2 is that a better presentation of the sound timbre and the tonality. It is definitely more organic now, more analog sounding, and non-metallic at all. Or perhaps very minimal hint of metallic sense to the music itself, the timbre, when I'm pushing it, okay, being critical. But otherwise, I would say that definitely the tuning itself has improved a lot from the original DUNU Titan. So that's on the tone and timbre part. But also, when it comes to the rest of the sound frequency, the way it presents the sound itself, it is definitely smooth sounding, a lot smoother sounding now as compared to the original DUNU Titan. Because when I recall the original DUNU Titan, it was tuned to be analytical. So you can expect like crispy edge kind of imaging and resolution from the original DUNU Titan. And this Titan 2 still retain that analytical prowess, still retain that imaging and resolution, but it is no longer sharp sounding. So you can expect that upper frequency will be presented in such a way that there's a strong sense of macro and micro detail. The decay itself is pretty much very well resolved, smooth, crisp, and airy. So that is the part which I love the most. It is definitely more airy than the original DUNU Titan. And when we talk about the mid-range, pretty much similar to the original DUNU Titan, it is largely transparent. Transparent means that there's no hint of coloration, there's no hint of warming, there's no hint of reduction of any kind of element to the sound itself. So what I am hearing is a rendering of vocal, which is faithful to the intended of how the artist record it, mix it, and want you to hear it. Okay, and so does the instrument. The attack, the decay is definitely solid. I was really enjoying myself listening to this Titan 2 with classical music or even technical jazz, especially technical jazz. We are talking about Diana Krall here or even Cine Egg. Okay, so the instruments are very well defined, very well resolved with the separation, succinct between different type of instrument, and also the speed, the rendering, the attack. Okay, everything seems to be quite mature. Despite being crispy, it does not sound AG. It is definitely polished sounding. And when it comes to lower frequency, now this is perhaps one of the key elements why I love this Titan 2 so very much. It has beautifully rendered mid bass. Yes, as a person who loves also metal music, especially metal music or even some of the instrument percussion, mid bass is very important to me. The kind of mid bass which I am hearing from this Titan 2 is the kind which I can thoroughly enjoy. Well, sorry about that. It was so very hot out there just now with the temperature well above 34, 35 C. So my camera decided to just simply shut off. It was just too hot. Now I am back in my man cave here. So let's just continue about this Titan 2. Okay, so I was talking about mid bass just now, right? Yes, okay. So this Titan 2 is definitely a mid bass centric IEM, which means that it focuses a bit more on that mid bass region rather than sub bass. But does it mean that the sub bass itself is being subdued? So let me just put this in the simplest way. It is still there, it is still present, and I was able to enjoy the kind of decay of the bass on this Titan 2, pretty much, in a way similar to many other IEM. So it does not sacrifice on the sub bass itself. But the key thing is that the overall presentation of the bass is definitely very beautiful, as how I would put it for this Titan 2. And let's just talk a bit more on the technical aspect of it. How technical is technical? I already mentioned that this thing is analytical. I already mentioned that it has good layering and separation. But how does it perform with soundstage and holographic projection? So I must say that it is pretty much similar to the original Titan. Not exactly very wide sounding. I have heard some other IEM within this segment which sounds a bit wider, a bit more open, but at least it is not crammed in. So it is more like a circular kind of thing, but the impression of the spatial imaging is kind of a bit more towards traditional stereo rather than being holographic. So what I'm trying to say is that this Titan 2 is definitely suitable for music, indulgence, stereo type of presentation, but not exactly so suitable for gaming or even movie watching. Another key element which I think super important to mention here is that how versatile this Titan 2 is as opposed to the OG DUNU Titan. It is definitely a lot more flexible now with every type of genre of music. And I have already mentioned that I use this with classical music, technical jazz, or even, let's say, bluegrass. But I think the biggest surprise for me, the biggest pleasant surprise for me was how well it plays metal music and rock music. Yes, this thing is superbly crazy good with metal music, especially in this configuration that I have right now. Hold on. Geoff, behave. This is not food, okay? All right, where was I? Metal music. You see this band here? Mula, my favorite band. This is probably one of the harshest sounding black metal that you can listen to. And it sounded like, as if so abrasive that, it's akin to like, pushing sandpaper against your eardrum kind of thing. But when I use this Titan 2, okay, with this kind of setting and play it using my iBasso DX180 here, or even this Onyx Alpha, I was really enjoying it. The kind of smoothness that Titan 2 offers, playing back those type of very harsh, low fidelity music. So definitely I would say that that is something which is very, very positive thing about this Titan 2. You might be wondering, how does it compare against DUNU Falcon Ultra, which I reviewed recently? Obviously, DUNU Falcon Ultra is a higher price IEM, okay, with a kind of like a bit more technical tuning. So the simplest way that I would put it is that, in comparison, both Titan and Titan 2 are not as technical or as analytical as Falcon Ultra. But by saying that also, I would even say that, when it comes to the overall terms of balance, if you want a bit more of moderation, if you want a bit more of musicality, less, focus on the technical aspect, less analytical, then definitely this Titan 2 is something which I consider as a mini Falcon Ultra with some refinement in the musical element. And let's just have a look at the rating system for Andy or Watt. Where do they stand? As you can see there, right, the original DUNU Titan S was rated at 57 out of 100. Pretty much good score, not exactly stellar, but you would notice that Titan 2 now improve practically on almost all area based on what I have already mentioned earlier. It is just simply a better refined, mature DUNU Titan, okay? And compared with DUNU Falcon Ultra, you see how close it is. This Titan 2 edging closer towards DUNU Falcon Ultra. But if you look closer at the table, definitely you would see that Falcon Ultra score a bit higher when it comes to some of the element like, pred, dynamic extension, and also transient speed. But I would say that this Titan 2 have an upper hand when it comes to the timbre, tonality, and sound richness, okay? And as for the rest, for the technicality, also again, Falcon Ultra would appear slightly better, but this Titan 2 is just very, very close behind.